Hey there, film fans. I'm Jeff.
I'm Dave.
And I'm John, and welcome back to The Love of Cinema, a pod in which we'll challenge one another to discuss movies, both new and old, with a strictly positive critical eye.
That's right. And to avoid lazy negativity, we've decided to make this episode a drinking game.
Oh dear.
So anytime you hear us say anything negative at all about this movie, about each other, about how Dave is like a jellyfish with no eyes, nose, thoughts, or emotions, you're going to hear this sound. That sound means we're drinking some soft shell turtle juice, and we hope you drink along with us.
So, pour yourself a glass as we go back to 2022 and discover why building sandcastles on a South Korean beach is just bloody dangerous.
Jesus
Cheers,
Christ.
guys. Cheers. Pre-show shot well, I guess it's not really pre-show. To get us drinking, to grease the pipes. I got the chalice again, you can see.
Yes.
I'm traveling around the
Got the
we have a
chalice,
YouTube,
not the
everybody.
crown.
You can check it out and see us drink for, that's right. See us drink for real. People, we are talking about 2022's decision to leave. The random year generator spun 2022. And I have to be honest, it was hard for us to pick a movie because we saw so many movies from the year 2022. We decided this would be the year we take advantage of living in major metropolitan areas. Dave and I were in New York City. John was in Los Angeles. He was going to a steamed film program out there.
Just
And so
fucking
we could
forget
see
where
movies
Los
in
Angeles is.
Shut the fuck up. I was going to say something.
I'm done. You know I graduated, right? You know I'm done, right?
Yes.
I went back in time to 2022, John, when we saw every movie. We saw so many movies that came out this year. We saw more than 50. We were doing more than one a week because we also bled into 2023. We tried to do every Oscar movie. We saw movies in the summer. We actually saw Everything Everywhere All at Once, basically the week it came out in limited release.
Yeah.
So we were ahead of the curve on everything. We saw movies that people haven't even heard of, like
It's
The Outfit.
Still our most popular YouTube video.
Oh, Everything Everywhere. Yeah, it was awesome. We put it together that Ki Kwan was from Data, and we put it together that he was in the Goonies and Jesus Christ.
He was Jesus Christ as well.
Well, everybody was talking about it afterwards, but we saw this movie cold. We didn't know anything about it going in. Anyway, okay, not setting up the setup pretty well here, but we saw every single movie that came out this year, and we thought we were going to be ahead of the game and see every single Oscar movie, and then it became one of the strangest Oscar years that people immediately forgot. Do you guys just think for a second, like, do you know everything that won this year? I mean, we just announced one of the big winners, but it's like, we saw so many movies and we were like, never again. But we decided to pick... Yeah, exactly. So we decided to pick Decision to Leave because it was one of the few misses that we had, and we knew it was good, and we heard good things, and none of us saw it. And so we were like, yes. But if you're new to the show, we're going to set you up the film year. And I just got a shout out from Xavier here. Toll House Brothers, shout out Xavier, who said he loves the setup. He loves going through the year, seeing what else was going on as the setup going into it, because he watched The Last Emperor in high school, which is the movie we did for our 250th episode 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And so he was able to get the context of what was going on in the world in 1987 when that movie came out, and then he could listen to our conversation. So that's the gist. I'm going to give you the setup. We're going to talk about Decision to Leave. Came out of Korea. It's fucking awesome. This movie, of course, is directed by Park Chan-wook. He also co-wrote the film with Chung Soo-kyung. And we're going to talk about it in a second. But first, we got to get drinking a little bit. We got to get to know each other. So if you need your Decision to Leave news, if you need your content, scoot ahead. Scoot. Check the show notes. We keep them up to date. But first, we're going to drink, do some gripes, shout our sponsors out. So let's dive into that. Let's grease the pipes. John, shout our sponsors out?
Yeah, we got some sponsors. Mr. Carlos Barroso brews beer, and he gives us some every now and then. Mr. Carlos Barroso, see barroso.beer. You can find the link in the show notes if you want to follow him on Instagram. He's got a great profile. You can follow along with his beer-making shenanigans.
He's been all over the world recently,
He is a beer brewer. He is a beer traveling, drinking man. Yeah, give him a follow. We also have an artist in residence that provides all the music you've ever heard on this show. At the beginning, the middle, the end, previous episodes, you name it. The musician's name is Dasein, D-A-S-E-I-N.
He also has a great profile. I've seen his mugshot.
Oh, yeah. You can find his music available on all the usual music streaming platforms. And check our show notes if you want to have an easy link.
This week, he put in an appearance on the Matt and Mike movie show.
Yeah, he did. I think that was that the second time he's been on there? Can't remember, but yeah,
It's like I don't know. He's the third time. He's a total Matt Mark whore. But
I think they whore. I think they felt bad about getting rid of the Patreon because Dasein was their most loyal patron who was actually responding every week.
That came up.
And then they got rid of the Patreon.
Jeff, it was like you and him, and
yeah,
I'm sure they had some other members.
There were others, yeah.
There were others, but
didn't need
Matt
a big
Mark,
venue for Matt and
guys,
Mark Patreon con. So
Patreon.
He loves their show, though. I'm glad they're having him on. He thinks, you guys are funny. It is objectively true. You are funny, but my brother thinks you're especially funny. He really loves you guys.
Spoopy season's around the corner here.
It's not spoopy anymore.
Mark sent us the
It's
other
not
day?
spoopy anymore. R.I.P. Spoopy.
What did they send us the other day about Den of Thieves? That whole exchange we were having about the sequel that's coming out.
Oh
He
god,
that
said
was funny.
He thought it was the best movie he's ever seen. He's like Oscar winning, like yeah.
That's so
They should've won
good.
an
That's so,
Oscar.
Gerard Butler is fucking awesome in all of his big actiony movies. Do love that guy. Anyway, all right,
Dave,
sorry, I'm talking
congratulations. We were off last week because Dave got a last minute gig. Dave, you're working, you're hustling. Dave left his corporate job and has never been busier in his life.
well, this one
exciting.
wasn't a job. This was a 48-hour film project. So it was felt like a job, but there was no pay.
Yeah,
we got to establish our credibility.
You don't stop. For anyone who doesn't know, the 48-hour film project, they give you a prompt as such, like a character that has to be included in it, etc. Details on a Friday night at about 7:30, and you've got to write, shoot, and produce that whole thing by 7:30 Sunday. So it is go fucking go.
Who edits? Do you even bother editing it? Like, what do you do?
There was an editor. And some
obviously
teams
you
have two editors, so one can pass out and the other one just sits down and takes over. It's like this. It's like on the Starship Enterprise when one of the crew members dies, another guy just runs up and takes his seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
But it's like a constant state of run for like 48 hours.
There's probably more Adderall in that shoot than at your average college frat house. I mean,
It was not actually. Yeah.
oh, look at this, people.
Bringing independent.
Also, drugs are
film to
bad.
you.
Drugs are bad, kids.
We need more like this film brought to you by Adderall. Special thanks. I want to see more special thanks with like a doctor listed, like
Remember, I tried to
someone's
put
cousin.
One of our sponsors.
Y'all
Special thanks to the busser at this restaurant's cousin.
Dave, didn't I have special thanks to Adderall and Sanitas? And I think we ended up taking it out, but it was in there for a while.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was in there at least one run.
That is so good. And you know what? That came from the food runner's cousin. So awesome.
Forgot about that.
Everybody's got a cousin. Shout out.
Fucking Adderall.
It's a Lin-Manuel Miranda project. All
What
right,
are we,
Dave.
What are we doing?
John, do you have a mini review today?
No, I did not see.
Oh my God. We got a lot of TV that I know we're going to be talking about at the end. I know John and I definitely watched The Perfect Couple. We're off 2 weeks, so we got Penguins out now. Dave, I think you probably saw it. No, you probably didn't. Did you see it?
I saw it.
Okay, cool. I'm behind. I'll see it. We got some shit. We're going to talk a lot of movies. It's Only Murders. I just want to say one thing about the Emmys really quick, and you get the show notes so we can do this, guys. This is not a gripe, but it is. These voters are not voting correctly. The Bear won. The Bear won for season 3 shit. You can't tell me that they did it, and it's so confusing because this year there were 2 Emmys, one in January and one in September, and season 2 of The Bear came out last June. So in theory, season 1 of The Bear came out in June 2022, but their Emmys were January of 2024. So season 2 of The Bear came out in June. And we're supposed to be, but so season 3 came out 3 months ago. It's very fucking complicated, but it's really strange. And I feel like when they voted for Hacks to win Best Comedy, they just said, fuck you. Everybody was so confused because The Bear won every award, writing, directing, actor, editing, it won music, it won everything. And then all of a sudden they were like, fuck you, Hacks is the best comedy, which makes no sense.
I haven't watched The Bear. Is it a comedy? Or was that
and that was the joke. One of the best jokes I ever heard is Slow Horses won for writing of a drama series, and it's funnier than The Bear, which won writing of a comedy series.
There you go.
Which, and I feel like the past 2 years, the past 2 Emmys, that was replaced Slow Horses with Succession, and it was still true. Clearly a funny show, clearly not a funny show, and they were winning for the opposite. And is that just an archaic rule because of the time lengths of these shows. If you're a half hour, you're still comedy. If you're a full hour,
no, you can still choose. You can still choose, and I think it can be vetoed by the Academy. I don't know who is like on that like deciding board, but you can choose because that was the Orange Is the New Black thing. They decided to be considered a comedy because they didn't want to compete with House of Cards, but they were like an hour-long drama. Was that it? I think they were split with House of Cards because they're both the first two Netflix shows.
Okay,
that's
So Christopher Storer and the team at the Bear are choosing, and the Academy for Emmy consideration and voters are saying, yes, you are a comedy. And then they're all complaining about it once they get to the Emmys. That doesn't make any sense. So one of those things.
Hey, it works for them. Although it's weird because like Martin Short had a great season. I hated the Only Murders season 3 compared to the first two. I hated it compared to the first two. You can buzz me for that. Thank you. It's yeah. But Martin Short was brilliant. And so it's
had a buzzer.
I love Jeremy Allen White. He's brilliant. I'm happy to give him the Emmys, but it's like, shouldn't Best Actor in a Comedy, like you think, Seinfeld, Frasier.
Make you laugh?
You think of, yeah. Steve Carell never won one. It's, it's huge travesty, right? And it's like Martin Short, earned it. Eugene Levy for Schitt's Creek. Like that's what this award. That's it. That is it. Cheers. And I'm all about Jeremy Allen White, but it's like it's a show about grief.
Yeah. I mean, they are amazing. This show is so strong, but you're totally right. And we're not saying anything that no one else has ever thought of talking about this. But
anyway, the whole thing, I was really more thinking about the years, but it's like at this point, it should be like the AFI where they're just like, these 10 films, have your awards, moving on. You know what I mean? It's like, we're just who do you feel like giving awards to this year? And just make your case.
Yeah.
Okay. That's my gripe. That's not my gripe.
Good, because we didn't have the timer running and that were way longer than 60 seconds.
Yeah, I'm excited. Ranting. What you got? Let's do the gripes.
Okay, well, I don't know how funny it is. I haven't made a clear point. Go ahead, hit the timer. Guys, when I go to a concert, I have to understand what the fuck anybody's saying. I can't not go and not understand a goddamn thing this lead singer's saying. I'm all about the music. I like music. But if I'm listening to somebody sing and I don't hear a goddamn word that they're saying, who do I blame? The sound guy? People can make albums on their laptop. Billie Eilish and Phineas won like 6 Grammys with shit he recorded on Apple Logic at home with very expensive microphones, but like, and patches and plugins and shit, but whatever. You can make shit sound very professional on your laptop. So why is it as soon as you go to a concert, if you are not at a huge arena or a huge venue? Now, the old thing was the drums were loud. So drum and bass would go first, and then guitar would be loud, and then voice would just have to be loud on top of it because you can't be quieter than the drum, etc. Dave, you know better than me. But you should still be able to at least understand if the instruments were quiet. This, I literally could understand. I'm going down, and I couldn't understand. I was recording it because I couldn't. It's supposed to be buzzer free.
No, you ran out of time. If you're still talking when the buzzer goes off, you get a drink. Yeah.
That was a minute?
Yes.
It felt like 10 seconds.
You have a clock that pops up on your screen.
I wasn't looking at it. I sent you recordings and I said, what did they say? And you said, I think they said honky tonk once.
There was I cannot remember. It was Daryl Braithwaite, an Australian music artist, and his albums.
Of course, that was his name.
Was so like you just described. You couldn't understand a word he was saying because he was slurring his words so much. And they actually did a comedy album where they had someone impersonating him and it had subtitles across in the music video, and the subtitles were like, I don't know, something about public transport, something about like no idea. So yeah, it's not an uncommon issue, especially in the live arena, because a lot of people, like the guys they're hiring to do this sound are like, the guy who knows how to plug something into the sound desk. Like they're not audio engineers.
Yeah. Is it the microphone? Like, is it dynamic mics? Is it just the
Dude,
EQ?
You can have a band in a bar with I did an AC/DC night here in Astoria a couple of years ago, and you could hear
I don't understand what the band's.
You could hear every lyric in that thing, and that was a cheap old little desk, and yeah, that's the other thing as well. They go nuts and try to mic everything, and then just put it all the same level coming out the front.
I'm pretty sure this venue, the sound guy was in the green room, not even in the room.
That might actually be the case. Sometimes they don't let you have a fucking desk out the front, so you can't hear what's going on. Sound. Yeah. No, I get it.
Okay.
I get why that happened, and
I'm properly lubed up. Oh shit! I just threw my charger across the way. But are you guys ready to talk about the film year 2022?
Bring it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. I got a lot of good notes here. Again, we saw all these movies. I made a list. Maybe I'll name them in a second, but we always start with the box office. So let's do it. Fellas, I will accept 2 answers again this time, even though we do. I'll try to cue you and say that it is the worldwide box office. The winner of the worldwide box office did not win the domestic box office, believe it or not. But what was the highest grossing film that came out in the year 2022?
Does anybody remember 2022? We did a show every week.
I'm going to go. You know what? I fucking forgot what the answer to this is, but I'm going to go with. I don't think this is it, but I'm voting for Top Gun Maverick.
Dave, you want to wage a guess as well? Since I said that there are 2 possible answers.
I wasn't kidding. I can't remember what came out in 22.
I'll put the caveat out there too. That this is also the year of, I think it's the last Jurassic World, so it's Dominion and Avatar, Shape of Water.
There you go. All right, John, you go showing off now here. So yes,
Jesus.
Avatar: The Way of Water did its usual thing where it comes out in
not the Shape of Water.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Not the shape. Oh my God, I did that like a lot. Yeah.
The Way of Water
No fish
sounds like
fucking
it's
in it.
like, you know, four blue aliens up against the urinal pissing their name on the wall.
Or Bruce Lee.
The Way of Water.
Yeah.
Well, The Shape of Aliens sound like Avatar was doing some fish fucking. Remember that movie, The Shape of Water?
Yes. We all remember that movie with the fish fucking.
Fish definitely fucked in Avatar too. There were a lot of them.
You're right, and they also fuck
Those-
trees and stuff too.
Dude, that thing
It's
will
very
plug into
sexual when
anything
they
in
do their
Avatar.
thing.
My parents are so proud of me. Okay, so
Not
the
in
number
Europe,
one
though.
answer.
It's a different.
Avatar: The Way of Water made $2.3 billion internationally, which is way less than Avatar 1. I will also say they re-released
Yeah.
Avatar 1, which creeped its way up to $2.9 plus billion in its re-release. So it's in total theatrical time, Avatar 1 was re-released. I believe Mark from the Matt and Mark movie show probably masturbated at that movie because he loves it so much. But yeah, so Avatar: The Way of Water, sorry. I really hope my parents skip this one. They're not. I'm going to get a message. My
Wait,
parents
Matt or
don't
Mark,
want
You
it.
can be grounded again.
Matt, was it Matt or Mark that loved it so much?
Mark loves it.
Mark loves it. Okay.
Yeah, that's why he books
Mark, I
those
think Matt liked it,
seat
though.
empty beside either side of him.
Besides him, on either side and behind him.
Yeah.
Top Gun
No, I've
Maverick
sat
it
behind
came in
him.
number
It was
2.
weird.
No buzz is detected.
He actually sat in here. Keep going. Keep going. Sorry.
Okay. So Top Gun Maverick came in at number 2 at just shy of $1.5 billion, $1.495 billion, but it made $718 million domestically, which is one of the highest grossing domestic movies of all time. Because us Americans, we love our Navy fighters.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do the math,
Tom Cruise.
Avatar made over $1 billion more worldwide, but Top Gun made more money domestically. How about that? Jurassic
Wow.
World Dominion
Well, a
just
lot of
cracked $1
Americans
billion.
don't know about the rest of the world.
That is true. That is true. Jurassic World Dominion just cracked $1 billion at $1.001 billion to come in at number 3. So there you go, John.
Who saw
number
that
4, Doctor
twice?
Strange. Number people who just wanted it to get to that $1 billion mark. Yeah, the people who made that movie, they were like, "This is our last bastion. I want to get to $1 billion. I'm spending $1 million on tickets." Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness comes in at number 4 at $955 million. We saw that. We talked about it.
Yeah, who saw that twice?
Number 5, we did not see this. Minions: The Rise of Gru came in at $940 million. And to round out the rest of the top 10, you have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, The Batman,
Oh yeah.
Thor: Love and Thunder, Watergate Bridge, which made almost no money domestically, so that was not an American movie. And it made $100,000 domestically. And Puss in Boots: The Last Wish creeps in at number 10 with $481 million. A couple other movies that did pretty well: Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, 407, Uncharted, 407, Black Adam and Sonic the Hedgehog, right around that $400 million money mark. Elvis creeps in there. The Bad Guys, Bullet Train, Lightyear did not do particularly well, but still made 200.
Did not.
Smile actually made $200 million, and DC League of
'cause it
Super
was
Pets.
Genuinely
creeps in as
fucking
well.
scary. I still haven't seen it. It's so
I
scary.
think,
I haven't
based
watched
on-
it.
So I'm going to talk more about the small movies in a second, but I think the 2 big storylines are this. Number 1 is it was a turning point this is also from moviemaker.com. It was a turning point for the franchise films. So even though huge successful movies like Jurassic World Dominion and Wakanda Forever was one of those ones where it was really well done commercially, but a lot of people, as far as the context of Marvel, were like, we don't like we don't like the stuff that has to do with Marvel outside of Wakanda. We don't like the reintroducing of characters. We don't like it.
Yeah.
We don't like Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
There's
Get Out.
one reason everybody went and saw, well, two reasons everybody went and saw the second Black Panther movie. One is to send him off, and the other one is because the first one was so fucking good.
Right. But then you have Maverick, Way of Water, the Batman that like rejuvenated franchises. But then you have Thor: Love and Thunder, Fantastic Beasts, Secrets of Dumbledore, Black Adam, Morbius, Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Sam Raimi.
Oh, that was the Morbin time.
Who's to blame? Morbius. Yeah, so all of this shit, and then of course you have Lightyear. So it's like it's just a weird time where it's like it was like the last hope. It was like we really were spraying paint, and then we got a lot of money out of it. But a lot of these franchises haven't done shit since then with those projects because it's like I know we made money, but where do we go from here?
That was the end of the Chapek era at Disney too. Just before I came back and went, okay, no,
Chapek,
get out of the house.
Another thing that's really interesting, this is a totally different kind of flip on that, is this was also the first year that people made their movies that they wrote during COVID. So a lot of the movies that came out in 2021 were not really rushed to the cinema. A lot of them were backlogs. And so this was the year that you get a lot of people loving the movie making, for better or worse. So you had The Fabelmans, you had Empire of Light, you had Babylon, which basically bombed, right? A huge big budget movie about the love of Honda. And I know he had been talking about that since before COVID and such.
Yeah, course, he had the Christmas Eve slot or some shit. It was ridiculous.
I saw it on like right before New Year's, and I was really bummed.
Yeah.
You have X and Pearl, or homages to old movie making love, Blonde, Nope. So again, some of these projects that have been in the works for a long time, but it's like this was the year about loving movies and loving the history
and Pearl
of movies
did really well
time.
in their intended markets.
Yes. Yeah, and Nope did too, even though I think all of us were just, it didn't stick the landing for us, if I remember. Can I speak for everybody with that?
No, I still enjoyed it.
Okay.
There's a scene in that still gives me chills right now.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. Here, standing on end.
The ribbon in the sky thing, I was like, he made the movie he wanted to make. I don't know what it is, but cool. And then what else? Shrek. A lot of franchises crossed thresholds like Shrek because of Puss in Boots is in the Shrek franchise, Minions, but yeah, whatever, etc. So I'm moving on from that shit. Oscars. Let's go to Oscars. This is the year of the Will Smith slap.
Oh shit! It was, wasn't it?
Oh, he's only got 8 years left on his ban.
Isn't that? And how funny is it? Sorry, I just gushed John. That's what I wanted to do. Fuck you, Dave.
Coordination, not your strong point. Do you want me to make the buttons bigger?
That's what she said. Let's go on. Any other news here? No, let's do Oscars first. So yes, Everything Everywhere All at Once won a lot of things. I think that's going to stand the test of times. But you also had like All Quiet on the Western Front would win some things. It won Best Score, won Best Cinematography, but Best Film Not in the English Language. Brendan Fraser would win for the Whale. He was largely up against like Colin Farrell and Banshees of Inisherin and Austin Butler. I think Banshees kind of got shut out. Banshees is one of those movies that we can attest to. When we saw it in the theaters, we loved it. And then I recommended it to my whole family and they were falling asleep. So I don't know what it is about that style of comedy. It just does better in the theater than it does at home. I think a lot of these movies probably had that. I think this is, again, another one of those turning point years. Elvis in theaters was probably magnificent. And then Elvis at home, some people probably,
Elvis in Dolby Cinema, if you get the chance to see that, it's worth it.
Exactly. So Banshees fell prey to that. Tar was the same way. We saw it in theaters and we were like, you had to sit with it.
Yeah.
2 hours and 40 minutes at home. I imagine a lot of people didn't make it.
That was a bit of a niche audience.
Got up and walked around. Yes. RRR was this year. I believe, John, you're a huge fan of RRR, the Indian film.
It was fun.
And then a couple other film news before I do world events. AT&T sells Warner Media, the parent company of Warner Bros. To Discovery Inc., which is then recognized as Warner Bros. Discovery. A24 had its most successful year because of Everything Everywhere All at Once. DNA testing found that Marilyn Monroe's biological father was Charles Gifford. I don't know why that needs to be up there too much.
Yeah.
Paramount Pictures made money. So that's it for film. And then we saw a ton of movies, but I believe the best movie we saw in 2022 was Paddington 2, if I remember correctly.
It's the best movie ever made.
But I'm going to rile off the list of movies we did. Are you guys ready for this?
Oh my God. How long did we wait? Did we sit on Paddington 2, though, from the first time Ryan tried to get us to see it?
2 years.
We sat on it.
2 years.
Yeah.
I still haven't
so
seen it.
long.
You didn't see it?
No, he wasn't there for
I
that.
missed
It was
that
just
episode.
us.
Jesus Christ. By the way, Mark Rylance was our hero this year. If you count December of 2021, which you shouldn't, but he was in Don't Look Up. And he was probably, to me, he was my favorite part of Don't Look Up, actually. So the very end, so that was basically like between Christmas and New Year's. Then he has The Outfit, The Phantom of the Open, and Bones and All. Now, not very popular movies, but it's 4 projects in less than 12 months that I saw all, 3 of them I saw in theaters. So Mark Rylance won this year for us. Uncharted, Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, After Sun, Women Talking, Triangle of Sadness, Missing, The Whale, The Menu, Banshees of Inisherin, Tar, Armageddon Time, Amsterdam, Amsterdam, Breaking, Barbarian, 3,000 Years of Longing, Vengeance, The Gray Man, Bullet Train, Elvis, Crimes of the Future, and then basically every other movie I already talked about in that box office list. So we saw all of them.
Flick back to 2022 if you missed it. We talked about a lot of stuff. And some
John,
of them
any
we
of these
got
that you want to
quite
shout
drunk.
out?
Yeah, did we not talk about Men?
Yep.
Did
You
they
We
guys
talked about
did.
Men. Shit, I put that in a different list. You and I talked about Men.
Yeah, I
that
was
came
in
out.
Australia.
I talked about it, yeah. Definitely wanted to mention that one. Alex Garland, I thought that was just
I went home
good.
in the bush, and I waited about a year and a half
Went home in the
to
bush.
watch it. And I finally did see it. And even though I'd heard, I was not ready for that ending.
Oh, yeah.
So wow,
Yeah.
so crazy. I guess I wanted to just in light of what you were saying about kind of the turning point for the big franchise. Word on the street is, I'm not fucking inside on this, so I don't know, but word on the street is that this was the year The Gray Man came out, the Russo brothers'
Yes,
giant
on Netflix.
film on Netflix, and it didn't perform. We'll never know because they don't show us numbers, but it didn't perform as well as they wanted, apparently, because they changed moving forward how they were going to slate and run the production arm of Netflix. And I had heard some people, and I think we have all heard some people say that it was kind of because of how that movie did not bring new subscribers the way they wanted it to.
It
That they
cost a
shifted away from
fortune.
having, it was like 300 or 400. It was very expensive.
And
Very expensive
they did
movie
not
to
get their
make.
money's worth.
And I don't even
I
think it
think
had
kinda,
a...
was it Russo's? Who was
Yeah,
it?
it was the
Russo's?
Russos, yeah.
Well, because I think this is one of those similar to the Ryan Johnson thing, where they threw $100 million at them before you even started the film budget. So, like, if you factor that in, you're knocking on $100 million once you actually start paying. It's almost like separate accounts. They're almost just like, here's $100 million, and then how much budget do you need? It's like
Definitely wanted to
And
mention
they're still
that.
password sharing their Netflix.
I wanted to mention After Sun, just because I think we all loved it so much, was just kind of a total other example of a really tiny film that I think performed well for its budget.
And Paul Mescal was nominated for an Oscar, and I think the writer was nominated for writing, and he was on a plane that I was on recently.
And he was on a plane that I was on recently.
He went to New Orleans recently. Thanks,
Charlotte
Paul.
Wells is the writer and director of that film, and she's great. So it's just a really great first feature. We also talked about, didn't we talk about The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent?
We did.
The Nick Cage and
You did. I didn't do that one, so I
movie.
didn't put that on my list. Yeah.
So funny. I want to just mention that really quickly, and then I think we're good there. We've talked about so many. All right,
I said it
let's
quickly,
rock.
but we liked Women Talking too, and that won best
Yes, we
adapted
did.
screenplay for Sarah Polley. So shout out.
I'm also looking
Anne
at a
Francis
list here.
Berman.
Yeah, thank you for saying that because I really, really loved that movie, and all the actors in there are so good. I also am seeing a list here where the film that is about to come out, I didn't know this, the film that is about to come out starring James McAvoy, Speak No Evil, which I think is
fuck that.
Blumhouse,
It's out now.
A24.
Yeah.
That was made internationally. It's a Danish production called Speak No Evil that did very well at Sundance in 2022 and was released that year. I just didn't see it, but apparently, strong, and they remade it out now in the American version.
There's a
wanna see
lot
the
of people are
Danish
saying the original is even creepier than the American remake or the
I think we
British
can
remake.
probably assume that for most of these things, right?
All right, you guys ready for some
Bullet
world
Train.
events?
Bullet Train came out.
Oh,
this year.
yeah.
We had so
I
much
shouted
fun
that
with
out.
That was
Actually.
so much good fun.
Anyway, yeah, that was great. All right. And we talked about Barbarian, of course, which I think all three of us keep bringing up on the show multiple times. Like this movie is
Fucked me up,
was so
that
cool
movie.
and fun. Yeah, dude.
All right, couple
All right,
world
go,
events
go.
really quick. The world population reached 8 billion people.
It's too many. Stop fucking.
Was that the same year that India surpassed China with population?
I didn't get there, but there's so much shit this year that maybe, yeah, that sounds about right.
Billion human beings.
Yeah, because that's when China relaxed the two-child policy and put it to 3, wasn't it?
David.
Or no, that actually happened.
Longer. People just live longer, so they're fucking. But
I didn't know they ever had a 2. I didn't know.
I'm pretty sure there was
1,
a 2,
and then it was
2,
and then
now it's 3.
3. God damn, China.
Well,
you thought I was taking the piss.
Well, Dave, take the piss for this, because koalas are now listed as endangered for the first time in Australian history in 2022, and I blame you.
Because of poaching or chlamydia?
No,
probably
the chlamydia is fine. They've been living with that for years. It was the bushfires.
Probably the fires that Dave went and visited when he went to Australia for 3 weeks, which is why you and I talked about men by ourselves. Boris Johnson's government resigned. Well, hold on. Boris Johnson resigned in July to protest the seemingly endless parade of scandals on his watch. Protest, yeah, it was more like he needed to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
So he agreed to resign, and he was succeeded by Liz Truss. She lasted just 45 days, or 4.1 Scaramucci's, the shortest tenure of any British prime minister in history.
Yeah, she is famous now.
In February of 2022, I tried to sneak this in the middle, but this is probably the biggest news, is that Russia invaded Ukraine in February of 2022, and we're still there. And then nobody's happy about it.
2 years that's been going on.
Fucking terrible.
2.5. Ketanji Brown Jackson is confirmed as a SCOTUS justice.
Yep.
First black woman. Iranian protests. Mahsa Amini, a 22-year-old Kurdish-Iranian woman visiting Iran's capital, was arrested for failing to cover her hair properly and died in police custody.
Oh, fuck.
Everyone assumes it was because police beat her, and so everybody took to the streets without their face coverings in Iran and all over the world.
Ooh.
Terrible.
COVID eases. Joe Biden decided COVID was over this year, so he didn't have to wear a mask, and testing was basically turned obsolete. Inflation returns, aka it was an election year, and these companies said, well, people are just going to blame Joe Biden anyway, so corporate profits went up, and 53% of inflation can be blamed on corporate profits. But sure, inflation returns, U.S., because I'm pretty sure the supply chain was getting better by 2022, so when those prices went up.
Have a look at the amount of stock buybacks happened that year.
These fucking cereal prices, you cannot tell me this bullshit.
Yeah.
The cereal prices, they're raising the prices, they're laying people off, and they're just fucking raking in money off of fucking weeded sugar. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
U.S.-China tensions grow. The end of the BlackBerry phones.
That's right.
BlackBerry phones.
Recent.
God, I forgot it lasted that long. When did the Palm Pilot go out?
The 90s?
But this is also one of those things. Do you remember when the news broke for BlackBerry phones and everybody was like, were they still around? You know what I mean?
Yeah. When was the last time you saw a cent for my BlackBerry? Decades.
It's like, it can't die. A man lived and survived after a heart transplant where he received a pig heart. That is right. A man survived getting a pig heart put in his chest.
Yeah. And he can fucking eat anything.
Last but not least, NASA had way too many things this year, so good for NASA. But man, I was like trying to pick out one thing, and there were so many things. But NASA's James Webb, I always want to say James Woods. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope captures thousands of never-before-seen young stars in the Tarantula Nebula.
If it was the James Woods telescope, it'd be pointed at a fucking sorority house.
Oh my God.
I love that.
Those pictures are amazing.
Yeah. All right. I'm ready to stop talking and pass this off to you motherfuckers when we talk about 2022's Decision to Leave. You guys ready to get into it?
Yeah. Are we going?
All right. 2022 Decision to Leave. This is available for rent unless you found it on some other place. Did you guys find it anywhere else?
There's something called Mubi that I'd never heard of, MUBI.
Yeah.
Apparently it's
I did
available.
a free trial. I started a free trial on Mubi so I could watch this.
I was going to do a free trial, and then I paid for it because I'm an adult. I'm gonna do. You're right. Just trying to make my parents proud this episode. I'm gonna make I'm gonna read the IMDb. None of you have seen it before, right? This is a miss for all of us.
You
right?
missed it.
Cool.
Completely. Yeah.
Here we go. Decision to Leave. 2022. I'm gonna read the IMDb description. Then I'm gonna pass it off to you for. What'd you think? What'd you feel? Spoiler free at first, and then we can get into it. No stuffy criticism. Here we go. A detective investigating a man's death in the mountains meets the dead man's mysterious wife in the course of his dogged sleuthing.
It's dogged sleuthing.
Some people have fun at work.
That's a cool band name.
Dogged sleuthing. All right, guys, take it away. Who wants to go first? I feel like Dave always goes first.
Yeah, he does always go first.
I do.
You want to break the cycle?
Yeah, let's mix it up.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it. So this was okay. I liked this movie.
Okay,
And
we're going to
we
agree
watched it
so much. I didn't know
yesterday.
how I was going to talk about it. Okay, go ahead.
You said you're going to disagree so much?
No, I was like, we're going to end up agreeing. I didn't. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, but let me say that this was one of the very few. And I feel like I should probably rewatch it because I'm sure we're going to talk about it. There is an intentional, confusing narrative, like storytelling aspect to this story.
Oh yeah.
When we actually tell you the plot of this, if I were to tell you the plot of this, it's actually very simple. But the filmmaking, the actual storytelling devices he uses is in the editing, dialogue, the way scenes are written, the way scenes are referred to other scenes, the way characters refer to things that happened before. There is a aspect of this that is not hard to follow. Like, I think you can sit down and watch it and understand what's happening, but he wants you to kind of question it because the detective is questioning it. And you're kind of starting to get a little bit inside of his confusion with I think he's confused with his head and his heart because he has an emotional response to this woman.
And
but
maybe
it ends
another
up
piece of his body as well.
Sure. But it ends up being mostly reflected, I think, in the editing and the storytelling. So that said, we finished this movie and we were both like, all right, just double checking. Is this what happened? And we kind of went through the plot just to make sure we were on the same page. And then we both were like, that is what happened. I think we're pretty positive that it happened in that sequence of events. It was a little confusing. It was a little, because of that, I don't know if it was always compelling for me to watch. I think so. There were moments where it went into a different space for me where I was kind of like, I think I'm a little confused right now. And I'm not sure if I care enough to like want to rethink about what happened, because I think he's going to clear it up moving forward. But there's a real slow burn aspect to the storytelling too, which he does a lot and I think in some of his other films. Like it's an interesting style. So perhaps my only criticism is that maybe he embraced that storytelling device so much that I think it could turn a lot of viewers off. All that said, we also, both of us, kind of felt this way at the end, and I still have felt this way today. I enjoyed the world of the film. I enjoyed the style. I enjoyed the way the characters thought and talked to each other. And there is something that I am already kind of like missing about it. Even though when I was watching it, I don't know if I would say that I was really liking the last half of the film. The first half of the film, which is the initial murder case, which is what you think the movie, if anyone who saw the trailers, read the blurbs, that's what you think this movie is. It's just going to be this initial part. There was a lot more comedy in it. And I responded so well to his comedy. I thought it was so great the way he was going in and out of just these absurd, sometimes it was character driven, sometimes it was the framing, the way it was composed, and just the actual filmmaking. That, for me, I thought that disappeared completely in the last half. And that may be another reason why I felt like, all right, without that element in there, I'm not quite as compelled. I feel like I'm kind of watching a continuation of him becoming more and more infatuated with this woman when we already know that she is a murderer. And it was kind of like, I don't know how much else happened with their love story or with the new murder. It was just kind of him going through the motions of trying to justify whether or not she did it and whether or not he was going to out her and capture her. And, I don't know. I don't know how you guys, I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this, because I can't decide how much I liked this movie, but I know I liked it at least more than like a 5 or a 6. Like, I think it was at least a 6 or a 7 for me.
Dave?
How about you guys?
I can give you evidence of how you felt, because there are so many things on the internet with, did she do it? And who was the murderer? And all these people asking because they didn't stick around or they didn't get the progression of the movie. So like, I get how it's come to that. I just want to say, like, as far as first impressions, the first shot in this movie had such wonderful composition. I had to rewind it and go back because I forgot to read the bloody subtitles, and I don't speak Korean, so I had to go back.
I mean, yeah.
I dug the style. The cinematography in this I could talk about for hours. And it felt like they couldn't decide on a genre, so they just kind of threw them all in. So like it's a romance, detective story, thriller, but it uses elements of indie and horror films in the editing, and some of those tricks that horror films use just to spin you about. They use that as well. So like, it couldn't settle on a genre, which is I think is why a lot of people can't place it. But I enjoyed this immensely. Like I get what you mean about the humor, and I dug the humor. The jokes are subtle and that they're human. The jokes are human, and I find that like Korean film does that really, really well.
Absolutely, and the genrelessness of it, like you were saying, like you would expect that from an auteur. Like this guy has got such a body of work, and he kind of makes Chan-wook makes Park Chan-wook films. And so the last thing I'll say is that I never questioned or never felt like I was not in the hands of a master. I knew he was doing what he wanted to do, and I was breathing the film that he was making. But that said, I still did have to kind of check in with myself and the film, and then had to have a post-mortem on it afterwards, just for the sake of plot, not necessarily how I felt about it, but to make sure I understood the sequence of events.
Yeah, they definitely jump around. They mess with time. They mess with people, like locations. And I just want to say the transition devices they used in this, like the shot transitions, they're all extremely well thought out and motivated.
He
like
does
there's something like the sky blinked out and then it cuts straight to a shot with a light blinking in the same tempo.
I had a directing professor who said that maybe, these fucking platitudes, but he said one of the most important things, if not one of the most important things that a director can do, assuming that screenwriters have already written a great script and it's been developed and you have this great cast, like all these other things that are a part of a director's work, but other people are going to be fulfilling those things. The one thing a director can do with the way they scope out how they're going to film something is creating transitions. Those don't always exist on the page. Like the cinema, the language you're going to use to get from the end of one scene to the beginning of the next. And I immediately thought of Park Chan-wook when he said that. This guy does that with everything he makes.
Yeah, he's like
every scene talks to the next
establishing
scene.
Shot.
Yeah, it's so fun. And that part is always compelling. The cinema, the language is always compelling. It's so filmic. And I think the more and more that we watch things like this, the more and more aware I am that, like, that conversation we were having a few weeks ago, there was a lot of dialogue in this movie. This is a detective story. There are actors talking to each other in a lot of these scenes, but you cannot look away from this movie. And not just because it's in Korean and Chinese. You know what I mean? You need to watch. There's so much mise en scène. There's so much visual stuff that needs to be seen, and he demands it in his language. You have to see how one scene moves to the next for you to understand how to watch the movie. Anyway, Jeff, what'd you think, dude?
I would say that I really wish I felt the way Dave is feeling right now. And I feel somewhere around where John is feeling, which isn't much of a feeling, it's more intellectual. But it's like, yeah, I would say when I just looked at the images, they were brilliant. They were stunning. And then not all of them were colorful. A lot of them were cold. I don't know if he was in that soft shell turtle eating rehab center the whole second half of the movie, for all I know. None of it could be real. I have no idea. There were times that were hard to be compelled.
Were you bored?
Times, it's a fair question. I think it's a cheap shot at movies nowadays to say that you're bored unless you're really bored. I wouldn't say I was bored. No, I would not. But I don't know if I was compelled a lot. So the confusion took me out of my soul and my heart and went to my brain a lot. So the movie's still going on, and I'm just not caring because I can't care until I'm connect with something, and in this time I couldn't connect like throughout the movie. Whereas, like, for instance, I'll take it.
I waited so long for that.
No, no, like both of you, I think that everybody should see this movie. So let's assume we're staying true to our format, and this is the spoiler-free section. I'm very happy I saw this movie. This is like it's like yoga. Some days, like fuck that yoga class, but afterwards I'm like so glad I took it. I'm so glad I saw this because there were beautiful images. There were scenes I'm going to remember forever. I will remember that sandcastle scene that you talk about, Dave, forever. For the rest of my life, I will remember that. I'll remember the turtles too. I'll remember being pissed that they kept kicking the turtles after the guy like fell off the bike. I'm fucking pissed that he kept. I was like, don't kick those fucking turtles. How fast are they going? Don't kick them, you piece of shit. And I remember, you know what? But what I will really remember is, and it's sort of said in this thing, he is obsessed with this woman who is a murder suspect for possibly killing her husband. And he is obsessed with her. And I could not get enough of that. I could get 2.5 hours of that. And then knowing the plot, which we'll draw out a little bit more when we turn our spoilers on, even though this has been out there for a couple of years. Let's stay true to the format since you guys honored it. Once it got there, once he ordered the sushi, and the other guys were like, wait, we can have that sushi. And then once the filmmaking, I'm in and out of her home, I'm in and out of her place of work. And he goes home and I hadn't seen his wife in a while and I kind of forgot about her. Once that was going on, I was so in. Then we left it for a little bit. And then we had that moment and then it was like, oh, and then we went to a new city. And then I kind of lost it again. I'm like, okay, and so it's like, I think it was great. But I just didn't feel as much as I wish I felt during this movie. And I think I'd never want to say to the intention of the director, it was a very fine line between brilliant filmmaking and self-indulgent for me. It was a very fine line between that clever, oh, we're in the home now. Oh, we don't know if it's real or not. It was too fine of a line for me. And even though I know he's brilliant, and even though I know he knows this story and he cares about these characters and he understands the Ethan Hawke rule of, I don't care how good your picture is, if there's no life on that frame, who fucking cares? He understands how important that is. The Handmaiden is brilliant. He knows this stuff. But there were a bunch of times where I was like, does he want me to feel like, aha, you got me? Because that's where I was at for a decent amount of this movie.
Yeah. No. I feel you, man. I think that's very well said about the fine line thing. And Dave, to your point, and I think we can speak to genre here because he chose not to use these elements. I think there were opportunities for him because I think there were more genre elements, and I'm using genre in a proverbial kind of quotes around it. Something more thrillery, something more true to like a detective kind of movie. I think there were more elements of that in the beginning, and I'll throw comedy in there as well as a genre.
The comedy definitely dropped off.
Because those were removed, I think that there may have been an opportunity that he did choose not to, embrace in the latter half of this film, where he could have given us a moment where we could have breathed a little deeper and kind of been like comfortable watching more genre elements, another chase, another kind of suspenseful motif where he sequence where he maybe figures something out, but he abandons those so consciously that you're just kind of left exposed with this one man, this character who's now in a different city under a different circumstance. And then he's kind of reintroduced to the same kind of dynamic with this woman following the same thing. And it feels sort of different, but nothing else has really changed except for her and her circumstances, which didn't feel that heightened because I didn't feel like he went through a lot to figure out the scam that she was running with her husband. I don't know. There was just something delivered to him about it, whereas I feel like he may have not missed. I'm not saying I'm judging him for it. I'm just saying I think he consciously chose not to take us down that route. And I think if he had, it would have been easier to watch. But I don't know if I'm putting quotes around that, listeners. It may have been more fun, more easy to watch, to see it kind of return to a true detective story. But it kind of became more of like a poetic reflection on what that one line that I thought was so beautiful. I'll always think of you as you will forever be the suspect. And the meaning of suspect is someone watched by the police. And she, at the end of like the midpoint of the movie, and she was like, I like that. And she clearly that was her motivation for the rest of the movie.
And I was all about it.
I don't know if he really moved past that until by the end, I guess he did want to capture her or redeem himself and maybe kind of, I don't know. I'm not sure what the hell he wanted by the end. It probably was some of all of those feelings, but I think it took so long for him to aggressively try to go find her at the very end that the second half of the movie kind of just was, there was something lacking for me other than this very hypnotic thing that I was trying to speak to that I think I was very crude and inarticulate about in my opening statement. There's something hypnotic about that second half.
I feel like I disagree about the drag. I feel like the first one, he wasn't in on it, or we weren't in on it. We didn't know whether she'd done it or not till the very end of like that first half where it's revealed exactly what's going on. I'm going to turn spoilers on here, so if you haven't seen this and you don't want it ruined, probably now's the time to watch it and come back to us. But
get in the conversation. Go see it.
Yeah. But I feel like in that case, we didn't know. In the second one,
right,
like when he moved and it started happening again, you were in a position where you absolutely knew that this guy was going to end up like dead. And you're like, is he going to fall for it a second time? And so the onus on it brings a fresh perspective to how you watch it because you're in on it this time. You know what she's capable of. You know she's done it before. And you know she's now done, like the second it happens, you're like, yes, she's done it again. Is she going to get away with it a second time?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
so that's how I took it.
That's good.
Which is, you know, it's not that one is better or worse or anything like objectively. There are plenty of mysteries where you either know or you know more, or you know less than your lead character, blah, blah, blah. I think the first one, what was so compelling to me about him arriving at his realization that you have made me sabotage an investigation because of my obsession with you. I am, what word did he use? I am shattered. And then her kind of motivation to like, oh my goodness, I feel bad about that. And I want to try to give him an opportunity to right that wrong because I have feelings for him too in some weird fucked up way. I wonder if I would have, just for me personally, I wonder if I would have been more fascinated if I had known less about how she felt. And therefore, if I would have questioned whether or not she had done it the second time. Because he literally shows us, we know more than he does. Because he shows us stuff about her in the second half of the movie. And I think that was part, maybe that might be the most specific reason why I think I was not as compelled. Because I was like, where's the mystery now? Is it just how he's going to respond to it?
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, I don't think he responded to it much different until the very final 6 or 7 minutes. Do you? And maybe I misread it. Maybe I'm missing
he certainly
something.
Arrived at the conclusion a lot sooner because he knew her tricks, so he was able to go, no, look, you've done this again. Like everybody gets one, but no, you.
So what are the odds? You just have to sit there and he has to be like, look, you got away with the last one, but
nobody killed a husband.
No,
Jesus. Jeff, what did you say?
Wait, because what are the odds? You have to sit there sometime and be like, look, what are the odds? Another one of your husbands died in a way that very obviously could be you. And you are confessing to being there basically when he was murdered, which was what got you in on the first, that's basically what got you questioned the first. It's like, come on, like, what are the odds that it's not you are a known killer to me? And so why wouldn't you be the number one suspect? And then if we assume that the story plays out truly that she's not, is awesome and fun. So therefore I have to go back to what John was saying before, which is like, I don't need to know exactly what he wants, but I have to feel like he's going towards something other than obsession and other than trying to solve murders and being good at his job. I feel like there's one little niche, and I don't know why Memories of Murder did it better, but like that movie was sloppier and messier and less jointed, and it was so much better. And this movie is so great, but I don't know. What was it? What's the thing that was missing? Maybe I would have liked to know if he was in the rehab the whole time. Maybe it would have been bad. Maybe he didn't want that. Maybe he wanted to do a full David Chase and not tell us a fucking thing.
Did you find it?
I don't know.
I really like the device when we were talking about his obsession, how they made it like when he was staked out watching her house, he was in the room.
Yeah,
he was like asleep in his car, but he was in the room watching her. And that kind of highlighted to how obsessed he was becoming with this case and with her.
And then you didn't know if he was in the car after a while. I was like, I don't even know. Because now this motherfucker could be in her home. I have no idea. Like he might have actually gone in her fucking home at this point.
two levels. Literally, like you're saying, maybe he literally wasn't there, and this isn't real, and it's just in his head. He's an insomniac that maybe sleeps every now and then, maybe he doesn't realize it. But also, I also thought that the way that was delivered visually, you saw him there, as Dave said, as though he's like a fly on the wall, kind of watching a suspect or move through the motions. But there's also a voiceover, as though he's recording these things onto this voice memo on his watch as he's doing his stakeout. And sometimes I wondered if the voiceover of him recording was so detailed about things that he could not see from 100 yards away through a window. That made me wonder if, like, how much of this is him projecting onto this entire scenario, which is just kind of almost like profiling. I thought there was some theme about profiling as well in this. The idea of how to view a suspect and what they are very likely capable of doing, and then of course, the whole thing is being pointed back at him, so that he's got a larger capacity for becoming obsessed more than she does.
Definitely falls into the obsession category, where you start making things up about the person because you're obsessed with them.
Well, and making things up, and I'll cite the staircase. I feel like one thing that was missing from the detective genre is the lawyer doing a walkthrough, which is basically like, if the thing happened this way, let's walk through it. And obviously we have that for the actual incident, but it also seemed like he's testing out some things a lot, and he's doing it in her home psychologically. That gets confusing a little bit, but I actually like that gimmick. It's just, it got to the point where I never knew if it was real or not. And again, I don't necessarily need the answers, but sometimes all I needed at the 25th hour was the cut back to Edward Norton at the end when you realize they were in the car the whole time. 3 seconds, I'm good. And I feel like that's one thing that they didn't want to give us, which is a choice. And it is good, because now I'm sitting here, and I guess the point is that it was all real to me. When he's passed out in her home, when the things are broken everywhere, I do say that, like, when you had the one pusher beat the shit out of her and the husband scheme with the bags and stuff,
Oh, Slappy.
I wish that was more. I wish that was more clear. Like, if the detective's thing
that came out of nowhere.
vague, and then he has no perspective on that. And I thought this was sort of all through his point of view. So is that also supposed to be through the detective's lens? Is he supposed to be guessing that? So it becomes a little blurred when the whole movie has that kind of.
Well, we were getting voice notes from her too, so I think at some point they shared the.
Yeah, but she was also fucking with her voice notes, which is real fun. That was real fun when she was, and that goes back to the conversation. So there's good film, where it's like she's sending him signals because she knows he's spying on her. Like, that was really fun. But then you can't trust the voice memos anymore. So he's creating things out of the voice memos that you can't trust. Oh, man.
The more we talk about this, it's reminding me of our conversation of Power of the Dog. There's probably so much here that, like, if we were writing our film theory criticism papers, I think we could end up discussing more about the potential of what this movie achieved and how it affected us and how its deconstruction of genre and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I have a feeling that that most audiences would find this less compelling than that paper would read. Do you know what I mean?
Assuming people read.
I feel like,
if you were to do both of those things, and I remember I felt that way with Power of the Dog too. Like, it's clearly like it's good, and you're in the hands of another master. Like, somebody knows what they're doing, but I just wish I was drawn in more. And for me, so far I've talked about genre. Jeff, you mentioned loving the characters and what was happening to them, but for me, whenever I'm like really stuck and I don't seem to be able to get pulled in, it's usually because I'm missing some kind of emotional, attachment to a character. I no longer really care what happens to them. That's when I know I'm really, like, kind of checked out, or I'm having trouble staying invested. So the work in this movie, the acting, I believed them. They were fantastic. I enjoyed both of them on screen all the time. But something started happening with what they wanted, or the scenarios they were in, or what they were willing to do to get to it, all the usual shit that we talk about in screenwriting and directing, that made me start to feel like, I don't know if they're changing anymore. And I don't know if I'm supposed to care anymore because of that. I don't know if what am I watching evolve, or is there any metamorphosis happening? And if the point was that it wasn't anymore, and they were just under a new circumstance, and we were going to see kind of a similar scenario play out, and eventually he was going to give us a different ending, I guess I just didn't feel like there was any trajectory or enough of a trajectory to deliver me to a potential ending. Kind of was just a little confused in that second half.
I can see how that could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know that her name is Tang Wei. She was in Black Hat, Finding Mr. Right, Wonderland. She's been in a lot of things. Ming Dynasty series. Did you know that she is actually on the Forbes top 10 list for actresses in China for several years? Because not only does she get paid a lot of money to make movies and TV shows, she's the brand ambassador for a whole lot of brands that are based out of mostly China, but are international brands. And she's actually a Rolex ambassador. Like, she is actually like one of the highest paid actresses in the world.
She's very good.
And one of them she got out of Cannes Film Festival 2022, which I believe, was this a Cannes film?
Mm-hmm.
It was nominated for Palme d'Or.
So after that, she signed at least 1 or 2 endorsement deals. Kudos to her. And she is Chinese, so just like the movie where she said she's from China, her Korean's not so great.
Yeah.
The casting, her casting was great. She has that enigmatic quality to her, where you want to, like, it just needs to be there the first time you meet her. Can I trust her? What is she hiding? But also, she's beautiful, and she has this kind of charisma. You could believe that he could kind of become obsessed and fall in love with this woman. I don't know.
She's also in a show called She's in a show called Long Day's Journey into Night, which I do not believe is the Eugene O'Neill play. And he, our main actor who played Jung Hae-jun, was in Memories of Murder. He was a smaller role. He was one of the younger detectives, I think. But he was in that movie, which was 19 years before this movie. He was in Memories of Murder.
It's probably one of the kids.
Damn.
Now, all I'll say is, I hope he made some money. He's probably one of the kids. I hope he made the money and everything. But you have those 2 movies and you have those posters in your home. You did it.
All right. Badass. I've waited an hour, but I have to talk about the cinematography in this.
No, you're right. It's brilliant, Dave. It's brilliant.
Just the South Korean film industry rarely disappoints, and this is like an exception, like not an exception, but it's like no exception.
I think you could say Korean. I think we know you don't mean North Korean. You know.
No, I'm going to be specific out of respect. I don't want any misunderstanding there.
Sorry.
There are certain things that stand out to me, like when they're first investigating the crime and they look down and there's an answering shot from the bottom of the cliff where the dead guy is, and it's the dead guy's POV, and there's like an ant crawling across the outside of the eyeball. I was like, who the fuck thought of that? Like, that is brilliant. And then they do
it again with the phone.
Yeah, they do it. Yeah, it's a consistent, like the pool, everything. There's like, you see the dead person staring at them. And then you get
sequence was incredible.
Yeah. But then there's other subtle things in amongst all the cinematography, like in certain shots they'll only move the camera one axis at a time. So the camera will be pointing down, they'll like tilt it up and then pan instead of doing both. So you only get this like one axis at a time movement. And it's noticeable, and it's an interesting technique. It kind of gives it a robotic feel. I'm not sure if it was intentional or whether they just had limited equipment, but it really worked for me.
I bet it was intentional.
Yeah, I do too. I'm sure they had no shortage of equipment given some of the shots they pulled off. I will say I love it when they throw a mirror shot in, and about a minute later your brain realizes that shot is impossible because the camera's sitting dead in the middle of the mirror. So they've either used doubles, which I don't think they did, or like digitally replaced the mirror with an answering shot. Because at first I didn't get it. And again, I had to go back. I was like, was that pointing dead on the fucking mirror? Like, and I went back and looked, it's flawless.
Where was that one?
That was in the interrogation room. They do it twice.
They
go dead on. Every other time it's off to hide the camera, but this one is dead on the mirror. And it was very well done, and also just thrown in as if it was unobtrusive to the point where you don't realize this even happened until like half a minute later.
I would say it does that really well in this movie, where there's some shots that you notice, you can't help but notice, and then there are some shots that you don't notice, but if you just take 1 second and be like, wait, what's the composition? It's brilliant. It's like perfect.
Yeah. What about when they have the reverse split screen in the same scene where they're both talking, but they've swapped the images and halved them? So it's like she's facing that way, he's facing that way, and like it's the back end of the shot, like the other end of the shot you've got. That was
I don't think I remember that.
that was in the interrogation room as well. I think they were actually showing the monitors, which were flipped. So they were filming the monitors, but it was him and her facing opposite directions in the same shot for an interrogation. I really dug that. Like a lot of this, it's almost like the dudes who shot or whoever shot Mr. Robot the first time around when everyone was marveling over the cinematography and that.
Sam.
Yeah, it's almost like it's almost like they watched this film. And
yeah, Mr. Robot was first, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know.
Just a whole lot of negative space.
I just want to say, well, it wasn't even that. Like in that reversal shot, they both had the frame, but again, they'd flipped who was facing who, so they're facing the outside of the frame.
Yeah.
So it was.
Dave, teach your film class. Get in there and teach it.
Also, I want to say the palette in this is the most consistent palette I've seen in a film in a long time. It was teal and orange. It's even on the poster. Through they had a color palette, and it's about, I want to say, maybe 12 tones, and they just used it and used it and used it again. So it became
it's so
consistent.
funny you say that, because when they were talking about whether or not her dress was blue or green, and it's actually like blue in some lights and green in others.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Memories of Murder. I was thinking about Decision to Leave. I was thinking about Parasite, and I was like, wait, a lot of the, and then even oh shit, what's the other Bong Joon-ho film that's set on the train? What's the one? And they made the series out of it.
Snowpiercer.
Shit. Yeah, and it's like the same palette problem. And it's like, is it green? Is it blue? I don't know. And here you are. You're like, it's teal. And I was like, okay, great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That palette's in all of them.
Yeah.
But actually, back to the cinematography, I love the way they shot these crime scenes. It was so cool. And then, of course, you have the different angles, and they splinter them throughout the film. You have from the different angles of the mountain, you have the top down, but they don't do it in a way that's like showing us the crime scene. They only do it character perspective.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's why I'm like, it's too bad that I don't feel more, because when that shit happened, I felt a lot. When I saw her climb the mountain and her ex-husband climb the mountain, and then I felt all three of them. I felt it was so stunning.
Yeah, it got a little tense.
Stunning. And then the pool was like the pool. And I don't know how they did the fucking scene at the end where you could see the degradation of the sandcastle, so to speak. Is that real water? Like, how do they make it seem like it? I don't know, because I don't know.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
I do the shot just before that where he pulls his car up and her car's already parked there, the extreme wide from above.
Yeah.
It was so visually striking because they hadn't done that before. And I'm like, what have they got, a fucking 3mm lens on that thing? It was so wide.
The sun was high. The sun was high during those, so you theoretically have all day. But there were like the sun was setting.
Oh no, that
was
definitely a sunset shot.
Yeah,
because everything was throwing the shadow.
I think everything. I mean, I'll just finish by, after what you just said about what this is like visually. It's more evidence of two things, and they're both true at the same time. One, when you find a director, because I'm not saying, of course, we'll give credit to everyone who worked on this film technically to achieve these visuals, but that was directed. Like that Park Chan-wook shoots films with that kind of visual specificity and offbeat camera angles and transitions. And I mean, so it's proof. So this is the first thing. When you find a director that's that great, watch all their movies, because some of them might not be, the best movies ever made, but you're still going to see what the filmmaking of the film can do to it. If for better, for better, usually it can make something that might be a little bit mediocre in terms of narrative or story, elevate and transcend whatever that subject matter is, because there is such a specific, subjective, artistic eye telling you what to look at, when, and how. And the other thing that is true at the same time is that I think this movie, and Dave, I'm glad you liked it so much, but just speaking for me, this was a movie that I didn't think was necessarily a masterpiece, and yet I know I learned a lot watching this movie.
Yeah.
Just thinking about how he chose to use this medium to create whatever it is, suspense, a character motif, to reveal information, perspective, you name it. There's always something that he's going to do that I was never bored watching the filmmaking, if that makes sense. So I just feel like both of those lessons are just like, oh my God.
Do you want to know my favorite?
Really
my favorite shot was the.
Give me a secret. Give me a hint.
He's chasing a killer.
Is it the shot with the dude on the stairs?
No.
No, okay.
It's when he catches him and he's on the roof, and she pulls up in the car.
There's so many good roof shots.
And they cut to the other side of the chain link fence.
Yeah.
And you can see normally when you dirty up the front of a frame with something like that, it's just whatever natural sort of light. This had a flashing car blinker lighting it from the side. And the composition of that was so pleasing to my eye. It wasn't funny.
That whole sequence was funny
is Kim
and
Ji-yong.
compelling.
Yeah.
The cinematographer is Kim Ji-yong, who did A Bittersweet Life. He did Fortress. So there you go. How about it? And I didn't watch The Sympathizer, but I remember when that came out, and I remember hearing it from some pods that I listened to that it was good. Did you guys see The Sympathizer, which is on Max?
I'm still watching it. I'm halfway through it now. It's his series, yeah.
I'll tell you though, if you look up his work on Shot Deck, 90% of it is this film. They
probably just went through this one, and man, I didn't talk about it, but I think The Handmaiden is my favorite movie of his, and I haven't seen most of his filmography. I'll say that as well.
Oh, fun.
But they are all just so visually stunning. So anyone who is interested in international cinema, director-driven films, because he doesn't necessarily write all these by himself or anything, if you want to use the true version of Auteur, but the writing of the way the film is told, I think he definitely fits into that mold. You're going to have fun. If you like his style, you will have fun watching the rest of his movies. He's taboo, he's edgy, he's fearless.
I'd love to go over to Korea and just party with these guys for a bit. Not like party, but play with these guys on set. Just to see how it works from their perspective and that sort of thing, because this was intriguing to me.
I never saw
curious
Fortress.
If he is...
Go ahead, John.
Oh, you're good, dude. You never saw Fortress?
But it's set in 1936 and the same cinematographer. I got to see this movie. It's set in the mountains. Come on. Sorry, John, go ahead.
I've never... I've heard that Bong Joon-ho, I mean, I think we've all heard he's very open about it. He's a planner, kind of Hitchcock almost, to a degree of he plans out the movie before he shoots it. He still in interviews says, when you get surprised, you embrace it, like everybody who knows how to make these things, but that the planning is fucking arduous. And, he's very passionate about it. And I think Park Chan-wook, from what I've heard from his interviews, is very similar, that there is a controlled style of filmmaking. And the beauty of what happens in that is that you kind of feel like there's something that happens to performances inside of that kind of control. And I can't really put my finger on it, but you're very aware that those actors know physically they can only move this far. Let's say if they're in a frame, so they physically are very aware of their parameters and limitations, but also emotionally, there's something about them being put into a box in terms of the control of the filmmaker and still having to emote, which is just always, it wears as opposed to handheld and you're just following performances and they can do whatever they want. There's something so incredible about really great acting performances in this style of film. And, I don't think he's ever failed at getting great performances from people.
Yeah, it's like when
he has a different cast in every movie. I thought it would be more of an ensemble feel. He has a different cast in every movie he does. Every project is different. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
No, I was just saying on old TV shows, they had to get people to stand 4 inches apart to get the right angle, but still act as if that person was standing a foot away.
Last thing I'm going to ask you guys, do you think all the fucking, because, guns are illegal in South Korea and China, do you think all cops have that awesome Kevlar glove?
I was going to ask that. Awesome. Is that standard issue? Because he just whipped that out like he had it on him, and I'm like, what the fuck?
When he caught that knife, I was like, this is the most badass shit I've ever seen.
That was so cool. But honestly, literally, it kind of took me out for a second. I was like, wait, is that standard? It might be standard issue because there's just knives over there.
I mean, how Korean is it? Not North Korean, although, I deserve that. How Korean is it? You did that to me, Jeff. Is to rob a turtle shop in glowing fucking neon helmets and then expect to run from the police.
Pretty great, pretty hilarious, pretty awesome.
Well, guys, you knew that guy was off the roof, right? You knew he was not walking out of that roof in handcuffs.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah. You had a feeling, right?
God, that was so well done.
I think we're a little conflicted. Dave, where are you putting it? I think I still stand by my 6, 7. It's in that range for me. There's some, and maybe I need to rewatch it 2 or 3 times, and I'll be like, "Whoa, this is one of his best movies." But it's still sitting there for me, despite our conversation, which I really enjoyed, and I think we discovered some stuff. Where does it sit for you, Dave?
I'm sitting around 7, 8.
Nice, man. Awesome. How about you, Joe?
I'm 6, 7. I know I was down on it because I really wanted to feel more out of it, but it was so stunning to watch. And really, I will weight a movie highly, even if didn't struggle to get through it, but even if there were times where I just wanted something. You know, when you are wanting things watching a movie, it's not always great. But I know that I'm going to remember things about this movie for a very long time, even regardless of this amazing conversation.
And I'm pissed off that we didn't hit it, you guys, because I know I probably would have enjoyed it more on a big screen.
Yeah.
It just screams. It's a slower kind of burn with the actual narrative and great, beautiful visuals. That is hard to watch on a television, that kind of recipe. It doesn't do great on TV. There's not a, so I'm a little disappointed at us for not just fucking going for it back then. I had a couple opportunities to see this, and that's a shame. I'll probably try to go see a retrospective if they ever do anything in LA.
If they ever do the live orchestra thing with this, I am there.
Oh yeah, good call.
Because they do that a lot at the town hall down Broadway. They do a lot of it's Korea Town Hall, they call it. They do a lot of Korean films with an orchestra.
Oh my God, I want to see the place go nuts when she says, "You need murder and violence in order to be happy." It's like, ugh, how American is that? Or when she catches him smoking and he lies about it, and she smacks him in the back so hard. I was like, yes. But also, I think they quoted she smacks him so hard, and I was like, I need more of this wife because that grounds me into reality. And she's like, "You smoked again." Or you did it again. And she smacked him so hard, and her body was so great. But the quote of the movie is, "Why don't you answer me straight? This is so frustrating." And I was like, that's it. Put that over every single scene. It's like, and that was actually him. That was actually the lead of our movie talking to her. But that was when she was about to go off into the sunset. So anyway, I love this movie for many, many things about it. I was frustrated by many things about it, and that leaves me wanting more, which maybe isn't such a bad thing.
Cool.
Park Chan-wook's Decision to Leave 2022.
Give it a look,
folks.
All right.
Yeah. All right.
Well, it's time to spin the random year generator. Then we'll do what you've been watching. Got a lot of TV to talk about. And then we'll finish up by making a pick. We'll make a pick.
Anyone want to guess?
Ask us. Yeah. John, what do you think?
2002.
Good guess. Shit.
You're not going to guess, are you?
19. I like the old shit. I'm ready for a fucking old one again, even though we were old for a while. Let's go 1952.
Here we go. Let's see how close we are.
Damn it.
1900s. 1940s. I said old.
You get your wish.
Oh, you get your wish.
1940. 1940. Well, people, we're not going to sit here and Google movies. We got to keep getting to our episode. We got a lot of TV to get to. Dave, let's start with you. What have you been watching?
I can't remember if I mentioned it last time. Did I tell you I watched the Dark Tower movie?
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, good. Yeah, did I tell you what happened when I tried to watch it? It was actually quite funny. I don't know if I told you this, but when I started it on AMC Plus, it came up with this movie has been modified from its original version. And then it just exited back to the menu. I'm like, so they just took the bad bits out.
They didn't say it's been formatted to fit your screen or anything. They just
weird.
It's been modified and made better.
Yeah, it's just a lot shorter. So obviously this week I watched The Penguin. Strong first showing. That first episode is fantastic. I'm very excited with where that goes and what they're going to do with it. So
they're releasing one episode a week.
One episode a week.
A lot of these, that's back. That's back, baby.
Yeah. Doesn't work for some things. I feel like it's going to work for this because it had it almost followed the Walking Dead theme where, something big happens at the beginning, something big happens at the end, and the middle is like story. It definitely ends on a bang. And I enjoyed it thoroughly. I feel like it's going to be a very interesting, version of Penguin.
8 episodes on Max, right?
Yeah. And we have the first 2 episodes of Agatha All Along, which is the latest Marvel show, the follow-on from WandaVision. That starts strong too. It's actually it starts fair warning, starts still in the mode of TV shows. And I would say the first 15 minutes of it is almost a shot-for-shot remake of a Mayor of Easttown episode.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
and it is it's
On purpose?
yeah, on purpose. Like
Okay.
the shots match up
That's
ridiculously.
what WandaVision
Well,
did.
that was what WandaVision was like.
Yeah, they're still in that. Yeah, they're doing that.
So they
again.
picked
Well,
up
no,
after WandaVision ended in 2021, and they picked the most popular show from the
Agatha's
following
still
year.
in there. But anyway, yeah, this and then it goes completely away from that into something else. Everyone involved in this is having fun. And they're already speculating over
Patti
at least,
LuPone,
yeah,
I'm ready.
yeah, they're already speculating over some of the new characters they're gonna introduce. But it was fun. It was definitely fun and laid back, and I didn't feel like I was pressured to remember anything watching it. So that was good.
Nice.
Cool.
And then I caught the YA film Uglies, which I think was dropped on Netflix.
Wait, I almost watched that.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's. I mean, I found myself enjoying it. We sat there and watched the whole thing, but it is definitely a popcorn film, and it's going to be at least a trilogy. There's 4 books in that series, so at least a trilogy.
Cool. I watched. I'm still going on The Sympathizer, and still kind of in and out of watching Ken Burns' Vietnam War. We're still going with Mad Men. We're almost done with season 1, and I don't expect you guys to remember. I'm not going to cite it specifically, but somewhere in season 1, that show kind of starts to turn into what I think becomes like the real secret sauce of Mad Men, which is it becomes a little existential. And they use advertising as a vehicle to get there, and the contradiction between what's happening culturally in the world, the rise of beatniks and hippies versus where he is, and he starts to kind of think about it. And not sympathetically for the other side, but just the fact that he's put in those positions, think about it, it turns into a very mature thing. And we just kind of made that turn, and my God, it was beautiful to watch a second time around. So I'm excited to keep going with
Isn't
that.
it funny watching some of those shows? You can tell when the feet start to dig in. It's almost like they sat down and went, all right, where do we go from here? And it found its footing and just fucking ran.
I mean, honestly, and I mean, anyway, it's so good. And just one more detail I'll say about Mad Men. It is very clear that the budgets for these shows were pretty low back then. And a lot of this is shot on sets and sound stages. And maybe I made that point a few weeks ago, but you can just tell it's so clear. Like the production value is not nearly as high as these big shows today, but the writing is so fucking good that there's something transcendental that happens to it. You kind of feel that like this whole thing is fake, but then it like sort of takes on this whole other, anyway, it's been great.
Yeah. Funny story. I've never seen an episode.
Okay. All right.
I have to, but
I think you'd like it if you gave it a shot.
No, I think I would too, but for some reason I haven't yet.
I watched Perfect Couple. Jeff, maybe you and I can talk about that for a minute.
Let's talk.
I sometimes struggle with those whodunits. It always feels a little fiendy for me. It didn't really get beyond that for me, and so I just don't know if I'm the right target audience for that kind of show, that kind of thing. I kind of feel that way about the Glass Onions and Knives Out too. I just get a little bored. I feel like I've read I think I've read one Agatha Christie and one God damn it, who wrote Sherlock Holmes? My God, what's his name?
Conan Doyle.
Conan Doyle.
Yeah, Conan Doyle, and
Shit.
I don't know. I feel like
what the fuck did I just say?
Conan
Arthur Conan
Edgar Allan
Doyle. There's fucking
Anyway,
Basset
so-
Hounds.
I didn't love watching that show, to be honest with anybody, but everybody's watching it, and we watched all of it in like 2 nights, so they got
It's just
something
fun
going.
to be a
Right?
part of the conversation. You know what? And it's good to watch with somebody because I watched it with somebody and we had a great time watching together. And that's it, you know? It's one of those, and I know I said this to you, it just bends genre where it's like some people, it's very obvious like the White Lotus exists. I'm sorry. Like I know the White Lotus didn't come out of nowhere, but you can tell Dakota Fanning and her husband, and obviously Megan Fahey, they've seen the White Lotus, and they were like, their characters were in the White Lotus, whereas Nicole Kidman's character was straight out of Desperate Housewives, and then a lot of other people were just in ye olds kind of murder mystery. Oh, we didn't do it, but it could be anybody. If you said to me, they got the scripts of who did it on the final day of shooting, nobody knew who did it, it wouldn't have surprised me. The tones were all over the place, but at the same time, it's like, look, somebody died, somebody did it, 6 episodes, got some A-list actors, you know,
I know.
have fun.
It's also one of those
And
things too.
Nantucket's fun.
I watched that first, and these are not the same medium. I'm not comparing them at all, but murder mystery. last week we took a week off here on the podcast, and last Monday night I got invited by a friend to go watch a screening of Sunset Boulevard at the Directors Guild, and
The Andrew Lloyd
God, that
Webber
movie's
musical
so
that's coming
good.
back to Broadway? Oh, no, the movie.
Yeah, the movie. And it was just so, I mean, I love that movie, and it was just so refreshing, and just like, there's a way to do murder mystery that doesn't feel like it's I don't know, kind of playing to the audience in the way that the series kind of feel like that series kind of felt like, you know what's going on, right? Like there was constantly kind of winking at me. And again, maybe that's the style, and it was perfectly created to appeal to a certain demographic, and I'm probably just not that person. But anyway, Sunset Boulevard was a fucking great rewatch. I recommend everybody watching that movie.
Well, those cops were
So,
in
Jeff.
Reno 911. And it's like, as fun as that was, it was kind of proof in a way that they were just like all over the place. Also, the PR people's assistants were doing so much shtick, and it wasn't even funny shtick. It was like kids doing theater improv class shtick, that it was like, you could tell they were all just like, just fuck it. And even though it was a
kinda weird,
huge
yeah.
budget movie, it was a huge budget movie, and those.
It must have been. How about that intro dance? Oh boy.
Everybody's trying to be
The
The
hell was
peacemaker
exit dance?
now.
Wait, you mean the finale dance? What is this, an
Whatever,
A.R.
the
Rahman
introduction, like
movie?
Anyway,
No, I
that
skipped
was,
the intro every time. Okay.
it's weird.
So we watched that. That's fun. We're caught up on Slow Horses. Guys, I've been watching Slow Horses. You know, John, don't you fucking ask me what the last season. Just watch
at
the
the end of
goddamn show. Just
season-
start it over again. Just shut the
yeah.
fuck up and start it over again. I just started watching season 4, and I was like, honestly, Angela, I think you can just pick it up. It's gonna be totally fine. Here's the gist. And she, I'm not kidding at you, laughed at every single thing Gary Oldman did. Just every single line, his face. We had to rewind parts. If you're watching this is season 4. He goes to the house of his old employee, who's no longer his employee. I don't want to spoil much. And then he talks to Jonathan Pryce. He's been in the show for a while. And Jonathan Pryce says something, and the way he looks, I don't know, that would be weird because she's fucking dead. And the way he said it, and we had to watch like 3 times because Angela's laughing so hard at it. So Slow Horses, guys, it just won the Emmy. If for anybody who gives a fuck about that, just watch Slow Horses. It's so good.
It won the Emmy for drama, though.
It won the Emmy for directing drama, and it's hilarious. No, writing drama. Directing went to Shogun. It's so good. Slow Horses is so fun. We were all in for Only Murders, and then I think this couple episodes are starting to stretch a little bit, but we were like, it's back, thank God. It's starting to stretch a little bit, but it's fine. Stretch meaning, I don't know if we need to edit episodes. Now it's drawing out. And Bad Monkey, we really like, but here's the thing, guys, and I'm saying this again. Stop overwriting your supporting characters. When you have a character named the Dragon Lady, don't let me have a conversation with her friend on the beach when they say, let's talk about your feelings. She's the fucking dragon queen and she's a witch. Don't talk to me about her day-to-day feelings. It doesn't make any sense. I don't get. It's clearly you have too many episodes and you don't know what to do. Like they clearly have if this would be such a good 6-episode show, 8 episodes is the death of them because it's like, it's so good. And they are shooting themselves in the foot. They're just not being smart with those extra 2 episodes that they have to do. So that's what I think about that. But more next week. I think I'm going to end up having a mini review next week. It doesn't fucking matter. I want to keep this under an hour and a half, people. So let's decide on what movie from 1940 we're going to talk about. Listen to some Dasein for 10 seconds, and then we're going to let you know what it is. Here we go. In my phone. Here we go. And we're back.
Back, baby.
1940. We talked about these films, guys. Rebecca, the film, the Hitchcock film. You literally can't watch it.
Can't
All
watch
three of
it.
us were like, no brainer. Let's do Rebecca, and it's literally not available to rent or stream anywhere right now.
We can try to buy it and maybe get it in 2 weeks on DVD somewhere.
Yeah.
And if fucking Matt and Mark have this shit in their Criterion closet, I'm gonna light that place on fire. Okay, we have decided It's been a theme. No, but it's been a theme this year where we do origin stories. The Thing from Another World. We did High Noon, like one of the OG like commercial westerns. We've done so many great films that have inspired so many movies. So let's go. Let's keep that tradition going. We are doing a movie called The Shop Around the Corner, which is based on the play that you might know if you know the musical She Loves Me, and if you know the movie You've Got Mail. Guys, it's like we are watching the movie that inspired it all, based on the play that inspired it all. I'm so excited. Are you excited?
I'm pretty excited.
Who directed this movie?
Let's do
Ernest
it.
Borgnine? What's the guy who directed this movie?
Ernst Lubitsch.
Ernst Lubitsch. One of my
Not
countrymen.
Ernst.
Ernst. I put a shadow vowel on. Ernest. See you next week,
It's gonna be
film
great.
fans.
It's gonna be great.
Ernst
See
Lubitsch
ya.
is... See ya.
Ernst Lubitsch's See Ya.
Shop around the corner! Woo!